Fucking great song, man. I mean, this is exactly what I wanted. Soul getting personal, putting things into perspective about like how he values penmanship over getting a million clicks on Instagram. That was one of our first reactions to Absol's new album called Herbert. And if you guys want to check out the entire full album reaction, check out the link in our description. But let's get on with this review of Absol's new album Herbert, starting with the artist performance. What did you think?
Well, listen, man, it's honestly, congratulations to Absol for coming back after a 6-year hiatus. There's been a lot of stuff that has transpired, in these past 6 years, especially for him personally, which, we'll dive into more into the content matter. But the artist performance was nice, man, like he's energetic throughout the whole track list. But there is some flaws within it. And
what are those flaws for you?
Okay, so let's go on. And listen, I don't want to get negative right away, but getting with positive vibes only towards the end of the track list, I really wasn't a fan of the vocal effects on his vocals used for that track. And
kind of sounded like a Ty Dolla Sign.
Yeah, it really wasn't that great whatsoever. And even going on to something like the artist seduction, my issue more is on the lyric side of things, but still, it was a solid performance all throughout. But you're going to find some really solid performances from Absol all the way through, especially when it comes to like Message in a Bottle, when it comes to Hollandaise, when it comes to Moon Shooter, Good Man with Punch. Like, there's so many great performances from Absol where he's giving you these classic solo flows that you've come to love from, let's say, projects like Long-Term Mentality or even something like Control System. So it was nice to see those flows make a comeback as well. But where do you think Absol strived on this album? Because he provided a lot when it comes to the artist performance.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when it comes to soul, obviously you're looking for the bars. He's a lyricist, in its purest form, and I think that he did bring that here. But I think what amazed me the most about his performance was really the balancing act that he had on here, because you have songs where he's just flexing his track presence and his flows on something like Fuck Out of My Face, but you're also getting introspective cuts on a song like Do Better. And then you also have songs where you are getting those lyrical onslaughts that you were waiting 6 years for on a song like Gotta Rap, which is an amazing fucking way to wrap up this album. But overall, I mean, I love Absol's cadence all throughout this project. I love the fact that he's so calculated with his delivery. I love that he delivers all of his lines super slowly to really make you focus on the pronunciation of every word.
Yeah, it's almost like you could feel every single syllable that he's putting into his writing, and I find that's so unique to his flow and cadence, because often what you'll find with rappers is that they'll always try to rush a flow or they'll always be offbeat. But in this situation with the album, Absol almost plays on his own time, and it's always kind of him, playing with the production rather than him trying to play catch up with the production. So I found that a big strength on the album.
Yeah,
as well.
I think what was also really cool, in my opinion, was the fact that the creative choice to include the singles Hollandaise and Moon Shooter, but actually upgrade them for the album release. For example, on something like Hollandaise, he added an extra verse and a beat switch. So it's like he gave you the teaser as a single, and then on the album, you're getting this refined version, which sounded immaculate. Same thing for Moon Shooter. Adding Joey Badass added a layer of fun, because it happens so often with me where I get singles from an album, I have so much time to live with them, then once they come on the album, I'm maybe kind of a bit disconnected because I had so much time to experience them on their own. So it was a cool twist for Absol to do that with those tracks.
Oh, absolutely. And as far as like how he carried out the track list, because it's a longer track list, right? I believe it clocks in at like something like an hour and 6 minutes, 18 tracks as a whole. So it is a lengthy listen, but for the most part, you're going to be always engaged throughout the track list. He's always going to be introducing new, flows and cadences, new stuff that he's never tried before. And what's cool about this album too is that like Absol is taking himself very serious within the rapping performances, but it's also a bit more fun and laid back of an approach. Like, he's really trying to have fun throughout this album, and I feel like I got that through songs like Fuck Out of My Face, for example, and I really like the way that he carried this track list. I think it was well executed, so I think the artist performance was great. But let's move into the content matter. So, Absol, as you said, is the purest lyricist of form. Like, you'll never find anyone with the type of content matter that he dives into, especially within the rap lane, whether it's, religious ideologies or whether it's political views or worldviews.
Conspiracy theories.
Bro, everything.
Yeah.
He dives into a bunch of different subject matter, and it gets very deep.
But it was kind of dialed back, I feel on this album.
Because I'll tell you why. This was a very personal album for Absol, and I feel like the number one thing that was accomplished throughout the content matter was letting us know where he's been at for the past 6 years. So as far as content matter goes, what were your highlights on the album?
I mean, I just love the fact that like this album kind of serves as a spiritual rejuvenation for Absol. Obviously, on the song Gotta Rap, he goes into this very intimate and I would say challenging verse for him to give off, where he's rapping about, attempting to commit suicide and how he jumped off of a freeway and he broke his teeth, had some really serious injuries. But it's kind of that whole like coming back to life, having a second lease on life. It's very positive. There's a lot of messages of just perseverance, which was really beautiful, because I feel like out of all of Ab-Soul's albums, this is his most relatable. This is the one that people can connect to the most on a deep level. And apart from that, I mean, I also love the fact that Ab-Soul, after all these years of being in the game and being under one of the most I would say popular record labels of our time, he still views himself as an underdog. And you kind of got that on the beginning of the album, where he kind of talks about most people. I think he includes a snippet from Joe Budden, who says that like most music industry executives would say that Ab-Soul was kind of a swing and a miss for TDE, but fuck all that, because Ab-Soul is one of the most unique voices and one of the best lyricists that we've had in the last 10 years. So it's cool to see that despite not having the commercial success, Ab-Soul is having an impact on his core fan base.
And I agree with that. And I also believe once you start getting into like Ab-Soul's passages and his ideologies, you'll still feel like he's super reflective and he still gets really deep with his emotions. So example, on Moonshooter, the way that he opened up his first verse, it's kill or be killed, not heal or be healed. Fake is the new real. And those are the types of like lines that I love from Ab-Soul, because it's like food for thought. It always kind of gives you this second wind of like, man, what is he really talking about? What is he getting into? And it always makes you kind of want to dive in deeper into the verses. But I will say this about the content, it's not the most complex album you'll ever get from Ab-Soul, and that was what,
at all.
That's what was cool about it. Was kind of like it's a different approach to his writing that you've never really seen before. But some fans,
I feel like at times it is to his detriment on a song like It Be Like That, where you're kind of getting the same verse 2 times just with a change of perspective, saying like, I see the light now, or I don't see the light now.
But I find
it's a bit too simplistic.
But you know what?
Me.
I agree with you that maybe like it could have been done in more of a complex or intricate way. But I do like the concept of that song, just because it does show the progression of Ab-Soul's mindset and where he's at personally.
It does.
Yes, it is a simplistic, let's say, rhyme scheme, and he's not doing crazy stuff with the verses. But then again, it's also very relatable and allows you to connect to the music. And that's something I find he did well with the content matter on this album, was that you're not going to get like control system type ideologies with all the conspiracy theories and all like the deep rabbit holes. It's more of like, this is what I have to offer you. This is all of me. Like, I'm not holding anything back, and this is what it is at surface value. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the album as well.
In terms of crazy bars, I mean, you have to respect Ab-Soul's wordplay, and he fucking brought it here. For example, in the song Good Man, which is an absolute standout, he raps, they want to chop it up with soul like the old Kanye, which is an amazing, bit of wordplay there. And then he also raps in that same song, rewrite history, then sell it for retail.
Yeah, incredible
amazing stuff. But he also has, I'll be honest, he has some juvenile bars quite often throughout the track list where I'm like, these aren't that impressive. For example, knew I might be on BET, now I think I might be ET. There's a couple of those like bars where I'm like, this is a bit juvenile for Soul.
Okay, yeah.
So for that reason, I don't think that he, I would say, expanded his penmanship all that much. But in terms of like just focusing an album on one perspective and really sharing his truth, he's definitely excelled on that front.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. Yeah, and it's a super personal album for him. And like the only weak performance as far as like content matter goes has to go
Art
on
of
to
Seduction.
Art of Seduction. And everyone's like, every time like the sexual content matter comes in, NFR kind of like steers away from that. And no, that's not true. If it's done well, it's done well. But like you could go through the bars of that first verse and like they kind of throw you off to a certain extent.
I think it's the second verse.
Is it the first or second? Verse? Anyway, so yeah, you guys could go through the track. Let's go on Genius and check it out. But that would be like my only flaw with the content.
Still, great subject matter overall.
Absolutely.
We're gonna give it a great rating just because Ab-Soul really was vulnerable, emotional, and he connected with a lot of people, I feel like, and brought some relatable subject matter to the table. But let's now go on into the features, and there was actually a lot of fucking features on this album.
There was.
A lot of TDE members. There was one previous TDE member of the name of Kendrick Lamar who ended up appearing for a very short appearance. How did you feel about that Kendrick performance? Because to be honest with you, I felt the same way about that one that I did about the Schoolboy Q and the J-Rock cameos, just because it left me kind of wanting more. I'm like, fuck, give us some full verses or give us a Black Hippie song on here.
I mean, listen, everyone wants to see the Black Hippie return, and we even wanted that for Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, so hopefully at one point in the near future we end up getting a posse cut, or we end up getting some sort of collaboration EP, whatever
We
it
were
is.
robbed of that album, bro.
We were definitely
I think it's
robbed of
over.
it. But you could go catch some old material if you guys want on that Piff. They have some mixtape material out on there. But okay, let's get into the actual features itself. I want to start off with Joey Badass, being added to Moonshooter. I feel like that was the perfect addition to this album because Moonshooter is very realistic in mindset. Absol's getting very personal with his pen, and kind of like what Joey Badass did with Chance the Rapper on the highs and the lows this year. I feel like that was accomplished again with something like Moonshooter, and Joey Badass is coming in again with very personal content matter, and I feel like it's one of the best verses on the whole album, at least in my opinion. So how did you feel about that Joey Badass edition, especially in the beginning of the track list?
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, he's rapping about like being a seasoned vet, even though he's in his 20s, but he sounds like a vet. He sounds like, he's mastered his pen game, and I love what he's bringing to the table in terms of just matching the topic of that song. Rapping about shooting for the moon and at least trying to be playing amongst the stars. So
absolutely. And listen to the
dope.
way he starts this first verse. Listen, kids, best to shoot for the moon, because if you miss, you'll still be amongst those stars to live for us. And I love that, just because, it's kind of giving you a realistic mindset on where you could take your life, whether it's, money or whether it's relationships.
Well, yeah,
whether
it's kind of just telling you
growth.
to dream big, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and like really try to achieve those goals. So I really enjoyed that Joey Badass verse. But let's talk about Punch on this album, all right? So if you guys are not familiar with Punch, he's actually a great lyricist, and most
President
people,
Punch.
absolutely,
Yes,
most
sir.
people know him for being, the higher up in the whole TD hierarchy and being more on the exec side of things, but he is actually a great rapper. And you'll find this verse, I believe it is on Good Man, and he gets the second verse and it's crazy, bro. There's a little rhyme scheme and a little pocket that he catches, maybe like 25% into the verse, that really impressed me. You guys can go check it out on Genius if you want, but I definitely think that he was a highlight, moment for me on this album.
I think like the one that we do have to talk about is definitely Go Off, and to be honest with you, Big Sean bodied them both, bro.
Big
I'm not
Sean
gonna
had
lie
a
to you.
fantastic
That
verse.
fucking flow switch he has at the end, also just like in terms of his writing, it was really well done because he's rapping about all the tragedies we've been witnessing in the hip hop world and how many rappers have left us too soon, and how a lot of rappers are kind of venting about this, but the next day they'll actually go on and rap about murder and all these things that are kind of I guess sensitive in a time like this. But at the end of the day, it's kind of a debate for another time, that whole like art versus reality and the writing within hip hop. But it was cool to see that perspective, because I don't see many people kind of rapping about it or bringing it into 2022. But Russ didn't really show up, I feel like.
Russ could have done better, and it's cool because like Russ usually does great with big lyricists. So example, whether it's with Black Thought on something like the Chomp mixtapes, or whether it's something like Therapy music with, let's say, Logic that came out of this year, I feel like he always does well when it comes to matching someone's chemistry, but I don't know, he just kind of felt out of place for the song, and I definitely do feel like maybe you should have just had Big Sean on the final half of this album, and people in on the song, and people in the live album reaction were like, geez, Big Sean delivers verses like this, and I'm like, yeah, he's actually he's a talented lyricist when he wants to be and when he wants to lay down these verses. So definitely a standout as far as the album goes. But let's get into some more TDE members. Let's get into Sir on It Be Like That. So I believe he ended up having a bit of a shared chorus with Ab-Soul, and then I believe he had a bridge towards the end, if I'm not mistaken. No, he had the outro on the first part. So how did you like his additions to the album?
Yeah, kind of minimal. Not much to say. Smooth performance. Same thing for Zacari on Do Better, which is actually one of the best songs of the entire year. Love just a simplistic message there, and how Soul carried out that hook as well as Zacari. Let's talk about Jhené Aiko, though, on Wild Side, because this was very interesting, unexpected. You got a full-on duet between Ab-Soul and Jhené Aiko, and to be honest with you, it was a bit odd to have their vocals layered on top of each other for the entirety of the song, but it wasn't like, I would say, too extreme or like too far out there to a point where Ab-Soul couldn't reach her playing field.
Yeah, that's what, because the chemistry was on point throughout.
Yeah.
Like, they were matching each other's cadences perfectly, and I do like the way that the vocals were layered. And as you were saying, I kind of was kind of taken aback by that, because I'm like, okay, is Jhené Aiko gonna get a hook on here, or is she gonna maybe get the outro or provide background vocals? But no, it was a full-on duet. So I think that was a cool creative choice for the album. It kind of puts you in an unexpected seat, and they have fantastic chemistry together. They've done a bunch of tracks together. They've always been in each other's realm realms when it comes to creating music. So it was very nice to see her make a return onto this album. Let's get on to Ombre on Artist Seduction. Very minimal performance again, but I feel like maybe could have had more runtime on the track as a whole. At least in my opinion. How do you feel about the track?
She was my favorite part of that song, to be honest with you. Like the hook was really the only thing that I had enjoyed. But yeah, apart from that, I think overall the features were great. Everybody showed up, and I feel like at the end of the day, you still felt like it was Absol's album and that he was leading the charge on every single track on here. So yeah, everybody killed it, and I think the one thing I would have wanted more of was to see verses from the TDE boys, but
yeah,
can't always get what you want.
I mean, listen, it's Christmas, so maybe we could have gotten it for the holiday season, but maybe one day, guys. But okay, let's get into the production. You're getting an array of different producers on this album. You'll see Russ have credits on here. You'll see Boy Wonder, Cal Banks. There's so many different producers. DJ Premier, bro, on the outro. There's so many great producers that came together for this album. How do you feel about the soundscape, brother?
I think it might be Absol's best produced album. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I love the jazzy boom bap that's present on a lot of the tracks on here. I love the fact that Absol wasn't afraid to go after some more trap-centric beats. If you're looking at something like Hollandaise, for example, that was fucking knocking. Same thing with Fuck Out of My Face by Boy Wonder, one of my favorite beats. So energetic, so triumphant. Love the classical horns. Love those 808 riffs that are on there. So that was a big standout for me too. My favorite beat was probably either between
Gotta Rap for sure is up
Gotta Rap by Primo, of course, but It Be Like That was actually really well done by Russ. I love the piano keys on there. Another highlight for me was actually Do Better, which was produced by DJ Dahi, where you got these beautiful flourishes of the trumpet as well as this crazy vocal sample. And I feel like that was maybe the best aspect of the soundscape for me, was the fact that Soul really wrote out all of these vocal samples super well, and sometimes they were also reversed. So it's cool to see the creativity behind that. But what was your favorite beat on this?
My favorite beat? Oh, for sure, Gotta Rap, bro. Like, seeing DJ Premier make an appearance on this album was beautiful, and I feel like even like hearing the scratches at the beginning, like,
yes,
because Absol is a pure lyricist, right? And I feel like when it comes to DJ Premier's beats, they obviously do best with pure lyricists and people that are going to be able to use those beats to the best of their capabilities. So when you got to go to something like Gotta Rap, man, not only is the content matter perfectly put together and super personal and relatable, but then you're getting those scratches and you're getting that, vintage Premiere sound in 2022. What a treat, bro, to be able to get that. Also, a big production standout for me was Hollandaise, just because you got that beat switch, bro, and that second part is absolutely incredible. It came out of nowhere just because, like, I saw album version, but I didn't know what album version meant. Okay, and then you're in the live album reaction, and we're kind of just waiting, hey, did the song end or whatever it is? And then boom, you're getting a completely different production right after. So I feel like that was a standout for me, but I think overall the production was great, bro. Kept me engaged all the way through. I think it's a highlight of the album, and as you said, might be one of his best produced projects to this day. But let's get into the
also that sample flip on Goodman was incredible, bro.
And Punch absolutely ripped that verse apart, especially with that flow he caught with that production. But okay, instant replay value, man. It's been out for like 2 days now at this point, so it's hard. It's a hard album to digest. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's 18 songs as a whole. I do have my skips on it, but I will say
take me through your skips first. Let's do that.
Artist Seduction. I want to go with, I think, Artist Seduction at this point. I won't say The Wild Side is a skip for me, just because, like, in the context of the album, I will go back to it, but I don't see myself revisiting that song all that much, and I would probably have to say Positive Vibes Only. So 3 in consideration for me. What do you got?
Artist Seduction, Positive Vibes Only, and then I'm kind of considering It Be Like That, but it has a nice sweet message, so I'm not sure. But yeah, definitely, those are the main 2, Art of Seduction and Positive Vibes Only. But in terms of overall replay value with this album, it is a lengthy one, but it definitely merits a full listen if you do want to experience it. But Hollandaise, Moonshooter, Goodman,
Fuck Out My Face, Message in a Bottle, Gotta
Rap. Like, there's a good, like, I think, to be totally honest with you, 7 to 8 songs that I'm going to be bumping really heavily.
Yeah, I would say, because, like, the rest are not skips. It's just, like,
but they're all right.
Maybe
some of them are average, to be honest. Something like No Report Card, it's kind of an average song.
Yeah, because you go towards the end of the track list, and I feel like there is a bit of a fall off with the second half of the album, and I kind of said that a lot about different albums in 2022, so maybe it's kind of a trend that's starting at the moment. But for the most part, I do feel like you do got to give this album a full listen at first, just because you want to understand everything that Absol has gone through in the past couple of years. You kind of want to understand the overall concept of the album as well. But then again, as far as like memorable tracks, yeah, you might take like 7 to 10 tracks out of this album, which makes half of the playlist. So, well, half of the track list, excuse me. So, I think overall, the replay value is good on it. It's a very hard album to digest, though. Like, the pacing got a bit slow towards the end. I got to see what other listens, but that's where I'm at right
It's
now.
good,
Maybe,
for sure.
maybe at the end of the year, I might have it up to a great, to be honest with you. But at the moment of the review, I think it is good. But let's get into our overall thoughts. So, listen, I'm definitely satisfied. This did meet my expectations for Absol. I'm super happy to hear him come back in such a positive light and see this beautiful rejuvenation, not only within his career, but also within his life and his personal life. Didn't hold back on anything when it comes to the personal content matter, and might be one of his best produced solo albums at this point. So how about you, Lou? How did you fuck with it overall?
Yeah, I think that Absol made his most accessible album yet in terms of just having these universal messages being spread all throughout that track list. And I also love the fact that he reinstates his love for hip hop and also reinstates his love for himself. Like, there's a lot of self-love that's going on into this album. Him kind of seeing his worth and battling his demons, wanting to become a better human being. And at the end of the day, I just love how healthy and happy he sounds on this project as well. It just sounds like through his cadences, through his energy, that he's in a better mental place. And as a big Absol fan, it's a fucking blessing to hear that he's doing as well as he sounds to be doing. And it's not an album without its detours. I feel like when you're looking at something like The Art of Seduction, when you're looking at Positive Vibes Only, they kind of take you away from the album for a little bit. So that does knock off some points for me when I'm kind of criticizing the album. But overall, he brought the bars. He brought a very personal album that I feel like is going to be something that his fans cherish for a very long time. So overall, I'm kind of in the middle of good and great for an overall rating. I'm not going to lie to you, but I'll go great on the overall.
Yeah, I think it was a great record. I think it's going to be a standout album, especially for the fourth quarter of hip-hop in 2022, and it's been a fantastic year all around, guys. So let us know in the comment section, how do you feel about Absol's new album, Herbert? Let us know where we got it right. Let us know where we got it wrong. And listen, let me know your favorite track on the album as well. Thank you guys so much for watching this, and we'll catch you on the next review.